All right, the second communist that we're looking at that works at the Washington Post in the opinions section, Ruth Marcus. Ruth, what are you doing to me, Ruth? Ruth is the deputy editorial page editor overseeing signed opinion content and writing on domestic politics and policy. Also looks like she runs a small business operating under bridges. So we will see. She says Trump's convention was repulsive and dishonest even. I fear it was also effective. That's just how I imagine she sounds. She says the south lawn of the White House served as the setting for the President Trump's remarks on the Republican National Convention on Thursday. That's the picture. And she says the Republican convention just concluded was let me start that again. The Republican convention just concluded was repulsive, dishonest, and I fear effective. Weirdly worded first sentence. Start with the hijacking of the White House, where he lives and operates all policy. What? Start with a hijacking of the White House for the most partisan of political purposes. That's a nice alliteration there. In the most nakedly partisan way. I have been prepared to grant convention planners for some pandemic leeway. Silly me, to see the supporters packed into the White House South Lawn, unmasked cheek by undistanced jowl. Oh my God, she really does not at all care for these people who are there. For the president's acceptance speech Thursday night was to underscore that the night was about deploying the venue in the service of re-election. So she's mad that he used the White House. President Trump was triumphant about it. The fact is, we're here and they're not. Yeah, true. And when he says we're here, he means all of us, baby. The gross misuse of public resources. That is a building that's standing. More than that, of public symbols and of presidential authority. One that they don't respect ever, so why do they give a shit now? Was beyond imagining. Trump turned core executive powers into made-for-television partisan spectacles. He commandeered newly minted citizens in a naturalization ceremony that belied the anti-immigrant fever central to his presidency. No, it's only to your reporting on it. Let's keep going here. Having spent his tenure debasing the power of clemency toward political allies, he turned it into reality TV for the RNC, she says, once again helping himself rather than dispensing justice. By the time the fireworks ignited over the Washington Monument spelling out Trump in 2020, the death of outrage was complete. What a word salad. That doesn't mean anything the third time reading it through. At this stage of the presidency, Trump's presidency, dishonesty is built in so thoroughly into the baseline of who he is, good Lord, and what he does, that it is tempting to ignore. I think that means the media, right? I'm talking about, hey, when we are reading these things, we have to read them and say, think about this like a mirror. Think about them projecting and think, does it make more sense if I'm applying what they're accusing him of on them? Does it make more sense to you if I just said to you, hey, imagine just as a thought exercise, expand your thinking, everything she accuses Trump of doing, of the campaign, of all these things, think of her doing those things while writing this and ask yourself which one is actually seemingly more real. Well, what's more true? That Trump is using the White House in some illegal, dastardly way of sneaking a re-election because people are tricked into thinking he's legitimate if he's already the president and is addressing you from the White House. She, I believe, is making this a political thing. Oh, he's politicizing the White House, and oh, it's so evil that people are there, cheek to jowl. She's, clearly not speaking very highly of these people, but at the same time wants him to show presidential authority some respect, even though she doesn't show him any. It's kind of gross. She says, so skip quickly through the usual galling array of factual misstatements. Okay, so like when he tells you things you don't like this from the president who has spent his administration trying to dismantle the Affordable Care Act in Congress and the courts without offering an alternative. Wait, trying to dismantle the courts? Or are you saying he's trying to dismantle the Affordable Care Act both in Congress and in the courts? Because that's what you do, baby. You get something surrounded and you take it apart piece by piece so it can never work again. That's what he's doing with the ACA. So when John McCain fouled out, when Jeff Flake and others were rhinos to the rescue for the Democratic Party, for the ACA to be rescued and saved, the courts went ahead and said, well, this is not a tax, this is not a mandate that we're going to allow, it's unconstitutional. Trump says, well, if it is a constitutional tax, then I can undo it. So he did. He said, never mind, individual mandate gone, but we're not here to talk about the ACA. She says, quote, no alternatives, being, we will always and very strongly protect patients with pre-existing conditions. And you heard Kayleigh McEnany speak on this earlier this week. If you didn't, you should take a look, because she says chest thumping as the next line in this, totally ignoring that Kayleigh McEnany spoke at the RNC about having a double mastectomy. And this ignorant woman, Ruth, has the audacity to then say, ignore, too, the chest-thumping greatest economy in history. Ruth, you're ignoring the actual chest-affecting breast surgeries and other pre-existing conditions that people have in the Trump administration that you're ignoring. Anyway, she says, ignore the greatest economy in history. This commie says, I say very modestly, I have done for most African American communities than any other president since Abraham Lincoln. That's Donald Trump. That's true. But she says his allies are smearing this against the Democratic nominee, who those whizzed by too fast to digest was also by design because, well, it's just clumsy that he would say that. So, well, it's wrong for him to say it, so he says it quickly, and we all just get right past it. False. We on the opposite. He says it on every speech. He says, I have done more for the black community. I have done more for the African American community than any president since Abraham Lincoln. He says, probably Abraham Lincoln. And it's a joke that he says probably. Everyone's like, yeah. But she acts like it was a mistake and we just forget it. She's so dissolute. She's so not tied to reality. Ruth, baby, no. Come away from wherever you live in your little bubble. People love the president, and you're wrong to write this. She says that it's whizzing by us too fast. We're too stupid to know what he's saying or something. It says one remark by a surrogate stands out for its calamity. Former Notre Dame football coach Lou Holtz slandering Joe Biden. He's a Catholic in name only. A slur so outrageous that the Notre Dame's president... Okay, this dude sucks. Joe Biden sucks. He is a Catholic in name only because he believes in abortion. He believes in socialism. Two things that true Catholics would never support. He is a supporter of a bastardized Catholic Church. That's what Joe Biden is. Joe Biden's a sucker and a loser. Anyways, concentrate instead on two areas of core misdirection. That Trump had handled the coronavirus pandemic brilliantly, and that Biden's a scary socialist, she writes. For all the convention's flagrant disregard of public health guidelines, its speakers even more flagrant in ignoring the extent and damage of the pandemic, fuck you, Ruth. You ignored everything that the speakers had to say. You ignore their race, gender, sexual creed, and orientation. For once, the mainstream media is actually ignoring all of the different intersectionalities of people that are speaking. Isn't that interesting? Because why? Because they're all intersectional, all, oddly enough, supportive to the death of Donald Trump. And they're saying, well, Larry Kudlow, we'll name him because he's white. He spoke of it in the past tense, the virus they mean. Trump, of course, outdoes all of the rest. He says, quote, to save as many lives as possible, we are focusing on science, facts, and data, he proclaimed on Thursday night. This on the day when his administration was forced to backtrack against its advice. This is a highlight, so that means they are quoting that, but it's their own writing. Testing for those exposed to COVID and not showing symptoms. They say, quote, the hard truth is, you won't be safe in Joe Biden's America. Vice President Pence warned us of that on Wednesday. That's his quote. And Trump took that rhetoric up a notch. They say the typical approach, especially for the incumbent president, is to rise above it all, to speak blandly, and to be like, oh, my opponent says this, but I'll do that, and we're going to do this. And Trump's not that guy. And so they want him to be the easy one that they can come after because they want him to do the playbook that they would be running. Trump's not that guy. It says Biden's a Trojan horse for socialism. No, Biden is the socialist, dude. It's communist Bernie that we got to be worried about because he says he's a socialist when he really is a communist. Biden says he's a Democrat when he's really a socialist. He's just a dictator without a people. That's really what Biden is. He's a dictator that needs a people. Remember when Castro's health was failing? And we all heard about it. Biden is like that guy, but he never actually got into office. That bears no resemblance to the actual Biden, they say, to this lengthy record of current platform. It is of no import to Trump or his supporters. Biden, that is. Which brings us to the question of effectiveness. The convention represented a concerted exercise in packaging or repackaging two very different Trumps. The empathetic big tent Trump, where everyone's welcome, and the American carnage Trump that they had tried to vilify and illustrate earlier as the guy who just wants law and order at the control and at the sacrifice of nearly anyone that gets in the way of law and order, which is supposed to be how law and order works, folks. If you enforce the law and anyone says, well, I'm just going to stand in the way of that and not allow you to enforce a law, you have to crush them. That's the whole point of law and order. Otherwise, we just say, well, we have hopes and wishes. And if you don't want to follow them, you don't have to, apparently. Empathetic Trump loves his grandchildren, champions women, says that he worries over his aides, but his ostentatious inclusiveness, there had to have been more black speakers at the convention. Oh, fuck you. And then in the audience on Thursday night, this is so sick. Now they're now saying betokening, pun intended, a big heart. What a riot. This woman, Ruth Marcus, you absolute disgusting, oh man, I don't want to say, but you guys know. What is she saying here, guys? She's saying betoken. How are you writing this? You are betokening a big heart. Pun intended. She knows what she's writing there, guys. Oh yeah, I'm just being clever about how I'm racist. This has the potential dual effect of appealing to suburban women turned off by Trump because she's like, well, yeah, the white women who live outside or the suburban women who live outside the major cities, they're going to be tricked against him. And also black men don't like him very much. So like those are two of our best bases, apparently. Come on, Ruth, you're retarded. Carnage Trump, on the other hand, seizing on the rioting, the looting, the arson, the violence. We have to see and stop Democrats at every corner. That's the carnage Trump, the one that will march the feds in. Says we've seen in Democrat cities all. They left that part out. Democrat-run cities all. Ignores the actual damage that actual Trump has wrought and invokes imaginary damage that Biden and his crowd would bring. Oh my gosh. Okay. Can't even begin to try to explain that. I don't think anyone watching this video at this point needs me to explain that either. It's all of the lefty looters, idiots that are doing the damage. The Republicans are holding the guns and intentionally, in some cases, shooting as needed. In this line of argument, though, Ruth says, which elides the police actions with sparks, such protests might not sit so well with black men. Consistency has never been Trump's strong point. Lady, again, with the word salad here, can you just get a thought out, please? The clear goal is to rile up the GOP base and to scare the wits out of those suburban women. Quote, the more chaos and anarchy and vandalism and violence reigns, the better it is for the very clear choice that it's going to be made public safety and law and order. Well, that's true. I mean, shoot. Ruth, baby, honey, sweetie, Ruth Marcus, you idiot. If you stupid idiots keep rioting, if you keep looting, if you keep killing people, what are we at, 35, 36 people now dead because of the riots and the looting and the angst and the you can call them peaceful protests. We can just wrap all of it up into that. 30-something odd people dead. And Ruth says, well, it's actually going to help the Republicans if we continue this. Go fucking figure. But why are you now promoting it still as saying, well, it's Donald Trump's fault then? Because if he points out the violence, that's effective. That's why you won't commit the violence. Because it'll help him. Not because you think it's the wrong thing to do. Ruth. Communists in Journalism, Part 2. Anyways, like this video. Make sure you let me know what you think in the comments. Subscribe to the channel because that helps everybody here. And then do everything else that you can do to keep America afloat.